Hey everybody, how's it going? I hope you're all having a lovely day. See, I got a nice view out here. You can't see because of the lighting, but it's a nice little snowscape and some woods and there's a mountain all the way that way. It's pretty nice. Anyway, what I wanted to discuss today was a class action lawsuit demanding a jury trial that names John Deere. So one of the things I talk about on this channel very often is the idea of right to repair. Right to repair being that a manufacturer should not go out of their way to keep people who purchase a product from being able to fix that product. Whether we're talking about not making parts available or whether we're talking about programming the device in a way where the manufacturer has to give their signature of approval every time you replace a part for the device to work again. These are really, really cancerous ideas when you put them into place in a society that really values the concept of private property and takes pride in owning what they purchase. And what I wanted to do here is go through this. This is a 50-page document, so I'm not going to read you the whole thing, but what I've done is I've taken notes on what I find to be the most important sections, and I'd like to relay that to you so that you could gain an understanding of this, because you've probably heard a lot about John Deere getting sued and a lawsuit and a jury trial. So I'm going to read the parts that I find to be the most relevant, and down below I will link to this entire 50-page thing if you would like to read it. So this action is brought under Section 16 of the Clayton Act, which allows an individual or a group to seek relief from something bad that occurred as a result of an antitrust violation. This is a class action regarding monopolization of the repair service market. They claim that Deere has greater market share than the next two largest tractor makers combined. They're making a tying claim. Now, tying means that in order to get one service, you need to purchase another. So here they're saying that when you purchase a Deere tractor, you're kind of stuck buying their repair services rather than anybody else's. And they're saying that this is done to protect Deere and their dealerships' revenue streams, which they claim is 3 to 6 times more profitable than the sale of the actual equipment. Now, they do provide a lot of citations here, but to be clear, they do not provide any citation for it being 3 to 6 times more profitable to fix these devices than actually selling them. But they do claim that this is a violation of Section 1 and 2 of the Sherman Act. Dealers are not permitted to provide farmers or repair shops with tools and software due to agreements dealers have with Deere, which is cited as a violation of Section 1 of the Sherman Act. They claim super competitive pricing, so this means that Deere is able to charge a higher price for repair services than what they would otherwise be able to charge in a competitive market. They claim this has led to class members paying millions of dollars more for repairs than they would have in a competitive market, and the pricing cited was about $150 to $180 an hour with additional charges for travel and parts. Now, some of you may think, listen, $150 for somebody that knows how to work on an advanced modern tractor that's good as a mechanic, if he has to travel, may make sense. But the problem here is that often the person who actually owns the tractor is fully capable of fixing it themselves. They're not paying this person to come and fix the tractor. They're paying for that person to come over with a computer, plug it in, reset an error code, and go on their way. This represents everyone who purchased repair services from Deere and Deere-affiliated dealers and technicians from January 12, 2018 to the present. And the core aggravation seems to be that tractors made in the last 20 years require proprietary software and tools to do many repairs. They cite replacing a transmission as one example of a repair that won't work if John Deere software doesn't approve the new part. Now, this software is not made available to owners of the equipment. One example provided is of a shop that said about half of his repairs he sees regard fault codes triggered by emission control systems that can't be cleared even after you replace the exhaust filters or particulate traps that are the reason for those error codes existing. The tractor needs to be brought to a dealership or a technician has to come out and plug his laptop in to reset the code. The farmer cannot do it themselves. In 2015, Deere argued that Section 1201 of the DMCA allows Deere to prevent owners of Deere tractors from bypassing TPM measures for the purpose of lawful diagnosis and repair because, quote, the owners did not actually own the software that made the tractor run. You only get a license to activate the vehicle. And this is something you see more and more of nowadays. Whether you spend $500, $5,000, $500,000, or $1 million on something, you don't actually own it. You're still stuck dealing with the manufacturer anytime you have a problem, and that is what they are aggravated at. The plaintiff is making the case that John Deere claims farmers can fix their own tractors, which is not true. A trade group representing Deere made a promise in 2018 to make the software and tools available by January of 2021. Dealers claim that they do not sell the software, which was confirmed by journalists. The EDA committed to making repair tools, software, and diagnostics available, and they signed a memorandum of understanding based on a statement of principles about 3 years ago. The memo does not promise to sell repair parts and allows the continued use of software locks to prevent repair. But more importantly, of 12 dealers in 6 states, only one had suggested an email address that could be emailed to receive the tools that were promised in this memo, and that one email address never received a reply. About 9 dealers got called by a Vice journalist, and they said that items promised by the EDA were not available. Deere and its dealers have yet to provide a single example of these tools being accessible or purchased, in spite of industry representatives claiming they're available. So let's say that all the farmers and all the journalists are lying. One of them said, okay, forget about us. Can you provide a single example where you have provided what you said in this memo to any farmer ever? You provide the example. And they have never responded. So even if you believe that hypothetically all these farmers are just making it up and they're full of it, when they were asked, can you provide an example of you actually providing what you promised 3 years ago? They have none. The plaintiff claims that Deere's forced consolidation of dealers was intended to limit price competition, which also violates Section 1 of the Sherman Act. They cite a dealership in New Hampshire that was in business for 84 years that had its dealer agreement canceled with John Deere. The former owner claims that it was part of Deere's corporate philosophy of eliminating single-location small dealers. Farmers in this area now had to rely on a dealer 60 miles away in Massachusetts for tractor service once this occurred, and that's going to come with all the costs and expense occurred of having to deal with long-distance service versus your local dealer. And again, especially if we're talking about something that has to be towed, can you imagine the cost and the inconvenience of towing something 1 mile down the road versus 60 miles down the road when we're talking about a heavy tractor? They not only request that this system be dismantled, but that the class and plaintiff be reimbursed by Deere for the amount they overpaid, claiming that the amount paid over what would have been paid in a competitive market is unjust enrichment. Now, one thing that I'm personally putting here as a side comment is, how do you figure out what overpayment is? You know, when we tell a customer it's going to be $300 for a repair, some of them will literally give me a hug. They will go around the counter and give me a hug and say, thank you so much for saving all my files and everything. They told me it'd be $1,000 and I wasn't going to get any of my data back. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then other people will say, oh my God, it's just a single chip. You're charging $300 just for that? Where anything over $50 would be considered a ripoff to them. So what is unjust enrichment? Like, it's one of those things where it's very difficult to come up with a specific figure that demonstrates what it is that you overpaid. You know, because many people completely ignore the skill set and years of training necessary for me to figure out what is wrong with the motherboard. They completely ignore the expensive equipment involved. They completely ignore the fact that we have a no-fix, no-fee model where, again, if I spend 18 hours on your board and I can't figure it out, I charge you nothing. And that is made up for in the fact that we have a flat rate pricing scheme where even some of the more simple board repairs wind up being charged the same way because it's no fix, no fee. You know, some people give us a hug, some people want to kill us. Pricing is a subjective matter. So how this is going to be determined is something that I honestly have no idea. Co-conspirators include independently owned dealerships. Out of 1,544 dealers, 91% are owned by a big dealer, meaning that that is the reminder that I have to take my car for inspection. Give me one moment. They don't trust that little New York inspection sticker on the front of my car here, and to be honest with you, I don't blame them. So they are saying that co-conspirators include independently owned dealers. Out of 1,544 dealers, 91% are owned by a big dealer, meaning that a dealer that owns 5 or more individual locations. The claim is that the lack of competition boosts profitability for dealerships in Deere. Yet one of the claims that the dealers often make actually is that Deere takes most of the profits. So most of the, I imagine, would be profits for Deere. They claim that during the class period that Deere controlled all of the market for Deere repair in the U.S. And a note is that this is a fact that is disputed even by right to repair advocates, and I can understand that being a little bit of a stretch on the part of the plaintiffs. Modern Deere tractors run firmware that is necessary for the tractor to do anything, so the firmware is vital to it being useful, and that is not something that they are providing in their memorandum of understanding. They never even said they would provide it, and of what they said they would provide in the memorandum of understanding, nobody's actually been able to get access to it. They claim that interpreting the error codes requires software that Deere refuses to make available to farmers, which is a fact that is in dispute by certain right to repair activists. They claim that farmers lose time and money when they have to wait for a technician from John Deere to come by when there is a computer fault, and that there are long wait times for this service, which is commonly necessary during harvest time when your tractor is running 100% for weeks at a time. So when your tractor is running at 100% for weeks at a time during harvest time, that is when they are going to be busy. That's when there's long wait times. So remember the last video that I did on Tesla? Remember how I was talking about the heat pumps that just stopped working, and how when you try to use the app to schedule service in many areas of the United States, there is a 6-week long wait. A 6-week long wait, not for the repair, not for them to order the parts, for you to bring their car to them and then be told how long it's going to be. This is a problem with many first-party manufacturers that limit third-party repair. That A, you have an insanely long wait time, and often you're not even able to actually provide the service. And when we're talking about harvest time, and that's when you actually need the tractor to work. If there is a delay during harvest time, that's going to cost you an insane amount of money and potentially result in product just not being available. There is also a claim of racial disparity in wait times, where the National Black Farmers Association stated that responses are slower for them than for white farmers. There is a clear difference between resetting an error code or ignoring or overriding safety codes. Overriding emissions or safety controls requires a different set of modification tools, which are not the tools required for diagnosis and repair. So the idea, John Deere is always saying that they're going to override emissions controls, and they're saying, we're not even asking for what would be necessary to do that, and that would also be illegal. So what's most interesting about this to me is that they are demanding a jury trial. So this is not something that's going to be decided just behind closed doors by one or two people, where it's easy to just kind of sweep it under the rug. If this was actually done in a trial by jury, it would be a jury of your peers. 12 ordinary people that would actually be able to decide whether or not what John Deere is doing is wrong. And this is what makes this so revolutionary. Because again, you could have legislative action that winds up not going anywhere because of one politician or getting stuck up in the political process. It is very easy for something to go away if you're just dealing with one FTC regulator or one person at the FDA or one local politician, or a company promises to do something. But when you're actually able to get a trial by jury, 12 normal people sitting in a room will get to decide whether or not what they did was wrong. And that is really a pivotal movement when it comes to right to repair, because in the 10 years that I've been talking on this channel, I can't remember a time when there was an actual jury trial to decide whether or not these practices violate antitrust and are illegal or are not. So this is incredibly, incredibly exciting, and I look forward to seeing how this turns out. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. To be clear, I am making claims based on this document. I am not claiming that everything in this document is true or is false when I am citing what is said in this document. And B, I am not a farmer. I grew up in New York City. We have 5 trees here outside of Central Park. I've never seen a tractor in my life in person, never stepped onto one. So this is an area where I am ignorant. And if I say something that is incorrect, and you're a rural farmer and you are aggravated that I said something that's incorrect, please correct me. I'll pin the comment with the corrections, I'll make notes on it, and I will not make that error into the future. I do care about accuracy here, and I admit this is an area where I am not as informed. When I'm talking about the restrictions on doing repairs on MacBooks, I speak from an area of expertise and experience where I know that 99.99% of the time what I'm saying is right, because it's my actual experience. When I say an ISO 9239 can be bought for this price from all these people, but a CD3217 cannot, all these type of things, I can tell you the history, the part numbers, the model numbers, when they were available, when they weren't available, what Apple will do, what they won't do. With this, I'm relying on what it is I learn from other farmers. So if I get something wrong, do let me know, and I will do better next time. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something. Wish the plaintiff luck. I am. See you in the next video. Bye now.